What is going on, everybody? ZyoniK here, and in today's video we have an amazing legend team here for you all. It wasn't built by me, it was built by a member of the community who hit legend the other day, and that is going to be Jason. So shout out to Jason. This looks to be an incredibly strong team. Now they did mention, and I didn't see this until this morning, that the Azumarill has Ice Beam and Hydro Pump so that you have better coverage to Carbink, but mine has Play Rough and I was still able to make it work. It was really nice to use Venusaur again. I think it's been an incredibly strong Pokemon throughout all of Go Battle League, but it really hasn't shined as often with the Trevenant and Noctowl core, but it is starting to make a comeback and it was very fun to use today. Alright, getting into the first battle here, we have Venusaur on the lead versus Galvantula. So, this is gonna be a tough one here. What I need to do is try my best to distribute damage across the rest of my team, catching suboptimal moves. And what that means is right here, I have to shield the lunge. And then what I can do is when they do decide to throw the next lunge, which is gonna be 3 fast moves, 3 volt switches, I can potentially catch it here on Dewgong, so I'm going to go ahead and look to do that. So we're going to go ahead and swap, and we do catch it right there, which is perfect because now this only does neutral damage and not that much, and I save all the energy on my Venusaur. Now they bring in an Escavalier, and I thought to myself, you know what? This trainer is probably running an extremely spicy triple bug team, which is really cool to see. But we're going to have to see if we can overcome it here. And what I'm going to need to do is rely on my Venusaur and its energy and damage output in order to basically overcome this. So we're going to go ahead and come in with Venusaur. I make a slight mistake not throwing right here. But that's okay. We get the over farm. I'm going to have to shield, so that's unfortunate for me. I really didn't want to give up a shield on that one. But now I'm safe to over farm and have extra energy. So I do have 2 Frenzy Plants ready to go, plus 1 extra fast move in there so I can outpace the Galvantula. But we do take out the Escavalier, and they bring in a Wall Rain. So this is actually really beautiful here for us because of how much energy I was able to load up with on my Venusaur. I can now get to the next Frenzy Plant in time, which is going to be doing massive, super effective damage. So get your earbuds ready because we're booing today as we bring in Azumarill now into Galvantula. And we can safely win this game as a discharge. Even though it does massive, super effective damage, it's not enough to KO us, and we can get to the Play Rough in time. Ice Beam would have probably been enough right there. But I went for the Play Rough knowing that it was the safe call and it was the secure win. So that is going to be a good game, very well played. Alright, moving into the next one. We have Venusaur on the lead versus Tropius. So, this is again another core breaker. We're going to look to go into Dewgong, and this is actually a Razor Leaf Tropius. Now, Dewgong here actually does incredibly well, and that's because of the typing on Tropius. Both Pokemon here are just smacking each other with hard, fast move, super effective damage. But what we can do here is get to double Icy Wind. Now, I didn't want to throw the Icy Wind right away because I didn't want Tropius to be able to load up on a ton of energy. So instead, I waited towards the end so that they don't get as many fast moves through. But I do have another Icy Wind ready to go, so we take Switch right here. And Umbreon decides to come in, which is totally fine, as I can easily align my Azumarill to this Umbreon, keeping my Venusaur well hidden in the back, and they have an Azumarill in the back. Now, unfortunately for me, my Switch clock, I didn't wait it out, and that was a mistake because now I am caught into this battle. And you may be wondering, wait, why aren't you going into Venusaur? Well, remember, we're in the 1 shields right now, which means Azumarill on that side was well ahead of energy, like 3 or 4 bubbles before my switch clock came up, which means they would outpace me to the second charge move, which means my Venusaur would go down. So instead, I look to time the next Play Rough in order to catch that resisted damage. And we do. This is beautiful now because that resisted damage went nowhere, and I can safely go for a Frenzy Plant here, keeping my Azumarill in the back very healthy, able to handle the Umbreon. They decide to shield, which is fine by me. I will give up a shield here and try to commit to the farm down, but odds are they're going to be swapping out. into their own Umbreon. Now, I think I can survive a foul play. It's probably going to be enough damage, but they had Psychic. Boom, down we go. And it doesn't really matter because I stored so much energy on my Azumarill, and ultimately I made a mistake, right, with not waiting my switch clock out as much. I believe that's what I did, or didn't. I didn't wait as long. We'll have to look back at it, but I recovered by catching the play rough. So you can always kind of come back in some of these situations as we are able to handle this. So good game, very well played to my opponent. Obviously, catching charge moves has been a huge critical game feature or game mechanic that you can do in order to overcome and win these battles. So good game. All right, moving into the next one, we have Venusaur versus Medicham here on the lead. So what's cool about this matchup is just the raw damage that we can output here. We're resisting the fast move, even though they're basically doing more damage, percentage damage to us. But that's because we are Shadow and Vine Whip doesn't hit as hard. But the Frenzy Plant can do a lot. Now, I decided to swap into Azumarill to try to catch the charge move. I couldn't really go into Dewgong there. It's not as good of a safe swap. But Venusaur coming back in with a lot of energy can obviously handle the Medicham. So let's see if we can make this work as a Lickitung does come onto the field. We do need to watch out for a Power Whip here, so I'm going to go ahead and look to give up a shield as it is the Power Whip, which is perfect. I don't want the Lickitung to land the Power Whip and then just commit to a hard farm. I'd rather them be forced to throw a lot of energy. They may not be able to commit to the hard farm after landing the Power Whip, especially since they didn't shield right there, but now I know I can safely survive a Power Whip here. Granted, my Azumarill is not XL, it's my old level 40 Azumarill before XL was a thing, but I should be able to bubble down, and now we have switch advantage, and we have loaded energy, so let's see what they decide to bring in. It is going to be... It's going to be Bastiodon. So this is where Hydro Pump would have definitely come in clutch. Obviously, that was the recommended moveset. Had I had a Hydro Pump there, we'd be looking good. Now, this is the tough situation as I decide to come in with Venusaur here, knowing that Frenzy Plant is actually going to do quite a bit of damage. And I know that once they throw a Stone Edge or a Flamethrower here, they're going to swap out right away into Medicham because they will be forcing my final shield. So to anticipate that move from my opponent, I'm going to swap into Dewgong as well. Here we go. Boom, we both swap, and there you go. That's exactly... This is when you know you're playing against players who kind of know their win cons, and you can counteract that here. Now, obviously, Medicham into Dewgong is kind of a tough matchup, but we can do quite a bit of damage and at least lower the attack here as a Psychic does land. But it's going to be up to my Venusaur in order to win this game. I'm going to go ahead and go for Icy Wind here, because what I want to do is basically hope to soft lose, or if I can win this, obviously if I can win, it would be ideal. But they decide to throw energy right here. I think it's just going to be an Ice Punch. Let's see. No, it's another Psychic, so that is fine. Venusaur can now come in and get a healthy farm down. And then now it's going to be up to getting 2 Frenzy Plants here against Bastiodon, so I do decide to throw here. And my hope is that the fast move of Vine Whip, because I only need one more fast move, comes through before the damage on Smackdown, and I go down, unfortunately. So that was a missed time on me. Good game. Alright, moving to the next one, we got Venusaur versus Azumarill. So finally, a very, actually good lead right here. And we do see a counter swap into Gligar, which is perfect for Dewgong. And this is why Dewgong has risen to be one of the most useful Pokemon in the Great League meta right now, is because of its ability to counter the flyers that we most commonly see, as well as having Drill Run for the Steel-type Pokemon that are very common. It's a very flexible, safe swap. As we do take down Gligar. I absolutely love Dewgong. It is worth the Elite TMs unless you got it from special events, which happened recently. But it's worth the investment if you have good PvP IVs. It has been a fantastic Pokemon. It's one of my go-tos for really almost any Great League team because you can always utilize a Dewgong on that team. Now, in this Azumarill matchup, we lowered the attack there with Icy Wind. We're going to look to do as much neutral damage here with Drill Run, trying to get the Azumarill lower. But this Azumarill now is throwing energy, and it's likely going to be a Play Rough. The question is it going to be enough to KO? Now, they decided to undercharge it. I think a Play Rough does a lot more damage than that. So now we're going to try to punish that by going for more Icy Wind so they can't farm me down as easily. And I should be able to get to a Drill Run now, and they counter swap into Froslass. So we have to come in with Azumarill right away so that we don't fall behind on energy. Now, the tough thing about this Froslass is it is very dangerous. When you let it get energy, it can absolutely sweep teams. So what I need to do here is recognize that my win condition is going to be with Venusaur, and it's going to be with the fast move Vine Whip. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but that's going to be the play here as I do get to an Ice Beam, or I should have just thrown Play Rough right there, but we do get to this next charge move, and they decide to let that go. I could have gotten away with a free Play Rough. Mistake on my end, right? So I made a huge mistake. I could have gotten a free KO. So to counteract that mistake, what you guys are about to see is called a peekaboo. We bring in Venusaur, we instantly swap to Dewgong. Did you see that? I'll rewind it just a second in case you haven't seen one of these plays before. But essentially, I'll pause it as well. The Froslass just got an aggressive farm down. It has loaded energy, basically near 2 avalanches, and I know that Azumarill has energy as well. So in order to win, I have to catch a charge move, and the best time to catch a charge move when you know your opponent is going to throw is right when you come in. And this is called a peekaboo. And what you do is you bring in the Pokemon to bait out the charge move so that they see the Venusaur, and then you instantly swap to your sack swap to catch the charge move, which is Dewgong. That's called a peekaboo. It's very fun to do, and it doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it completely swings the momentum of the game, as now they decide to surrender. Good battle. Alright, moving into the next one, we have Venusaur on the lead versus Haxorus. Very cool Pokemon to see here in the Great League. Thankfully, they aren't running Dragon Tail, they're running Counter. But Breaking Swipe is obviously something I need to be concerned about, so I'm going to go ahead and give up a shield here, and then I'm going to look to go for a Sludge Bomb, but they make a great swap into Medicham to catch the charge move. Thankfully, this is still neutral damage, but it is attack lowered because of the Breaking Swipe, so what I'm going to look to do is kind of counter swap and catch the charge move, but they decided to hold, which is fine by me. But now I have loaded energy on my Venusaur. This is a practice that you guys want to get into if it's applicable in the situation that you are in, right? A Medicham is not going to do a lot of damage with counter to me. I'm safe to get to a Frenzy Plant and then try to bail and catch a resisted charge move of Ice Punch, right? So now the Medicham is looking to potentially take Switch as they decided to shield the, I think I went for Ice Beam right there. I was looking at you guys and not looking at the screen. Psychic does come through, but I will get to another Ice Beam in time. If they decide to double shield, fine. I will come in with Venusaur and load up on energy. If they decide to let it go, I now have alignment as a Haxorus is not going to like my Dewgong. So we're going to go ahead and bring that in. We're going to keep our Venusaur in the back, healthy and loaded on energy, as Dewgong now is a great counter, and they decide to bring in Lantern. So this is going to be a good game, very well played, as Venusaur is a fantastic counter to Lantern. And with the update to Spark, you guys can determine if it was a buff or a nerf, but ultimately Lantern did not go away. It is extremely viable, it is extremely meta, and very strong to have on your team. And because of that, it's pretty common, which means this Venusaur now is going to be having a very good time as we can boom the Dolphin, boom, out of the game. Haxorus is going to go ahead and come back in. We will go for Frenzy Plant here, but they throw a Breaking Swipe, which is totally fine, because Dewgong now is just going to secure the win for me here with Icy Wind. There's really not a lot they can do. Haxorus, though, still got to respect the spice, still got to respect the damage because of counter and Breaking Swipe, but ultimately we are able to get to Icy Wind, and that is going to be a good game. Very well played here. Dewgong going to be taking it. All right, moving to the next one. Venusaur versus Pelipper. Okay, not ideal on the lead, but ideal with energy coming back in, so I will go into Dewgong. We do draw out a Tapu Fini. Now, Tapu Fini is not a great answer to Dewgong. The only way it can win this matchup is if it lands a Moonblast. And thankfully I did land a Drill Run, which allows me now to be more consistent here with Icy Winds. I don't necessarily need to land another Drill Run in order to win, but they decided to go for Surf. So I think it might have been a miscount on me. This is definitely another Surf right now, or maybe they did build up to the Moonblast there. But ultimately, I got shield baited, which is fine. I can now load up on energy and safely go for Drill Runs. I was going to go for Icy Wind had they decided to load back up to Moonblast, but in this case, we just take Switch, which is totally fine by me because Pelipper now coming back in is just going to eat a lot of Icy Winds. Weather Ball is not going to do enough to take us out. We do force a shield as well, so this is a very ideal situation. Getting Switch advantage, getting even shields, and applying debuffs to their potential hardest counter to my Venusaur, and landing charge moves. Look at this damage. We basically got it near to the red, and this just goes to show how good a Dewgong can be. So Weather Ball does take us out. We will come in with Azumarill and load up on energy. They swap out into Trevenant, and my best bet now is Venusaur here with a double Frenzy Plant. Now, you might be thinking, hold on, Trevenant is part grass, Frenzy Plant's going to be resisted. We do shield the Shadow Ball as well, but what you got to remember is it's the Great League, and a glassy type Pokemon like Trevenant is going to get hit like a truck with a Frenzy Plant. As you guys can see, that did an incredible amount of damage. I do get to another one in time, which is going to be forcing the final shield of this game, and they're going to be forced to throw a Shadow Ball here, as Seed Bomb will not do enough damage. So what we're going to do is Bubble Down, commit to the Bubble Down here with Azumarill, and we are able to get it as Pelipper now comes back in, and we should be able to get to the Ice Beam in time. Pelipper does have a lot of energy, so a Hurricane will be landing, but a Hurricane is not enough to KO the Azumarill, and that is going to be a good game, very well played, as they do decide to surrender before the Ice Beam connects. Alright. Moving into the next one, we got Venusaur versus Defense Form Deoxys. Okay, I've said this every time. You guys have been keeping up with videos and sets that I do. When you see Defense Form Deoxys, you automatically got to assume a dark type in the back. So Azumarill, Scrafty, Greninja, something's back there, right? I'm also very aware that they could have Psycho Boost, which they do decide to throw. So now I'm going to go ahead and swap into Dewgong as they built up to 10 counters, which is going to be Psycho Boost is 5 counters, right? So we do catch the charge move there, and now their attack is harshly dropped. They do decide to load back up to another Psycho Boost. I think they got it, or maybe they're one away, but they bring in an Umbreon, which is exactly, if you see a Defense Form Deoxys, you're gonna see a dark type Pokemon. It goes together like peanut butter and jelly. I don't know how else to explain it. It's probably more common to see that pairing than it is to see a Medicham. Actually, I don't know if that would be what would be more common, the Defense Form Deoxys and Umbreon or Medichams. Probably Medichams, but either way, a little bit of a tangent right there. We're in a good position. We're in a very good position where Defense Form Deoxys' only play in this game is going to be throwing one Psycho Boost, and is extremely low, where either Azumarill or Venusaur can farm down with fast moves. So I need to maintain my final shield for that. I don't need Switch right here. I can easily come in with Azumarill, so I decide to counter swap, and they bring in a Dewgong. So now I have a potential win condition, and that is going to be trusting in Venusaur to win this game. So I have to no shield everything here on Azumarill, because we see what the chess pieces are on the board, right? There is an Umbreon that has unloaded all its energy. I don't think it's close. I think it needs maybe 2 fast moves, 3 fast moves in order to get to the next foul play. Or Dark Pulse. I think they were throwing Dark Pulse this game. The Defense Form Deoxys has a Psycho Boost or near a Psycho Boost. I think it's either got 4 counters or 5 counters right there, so we're just going to assume it has Psycho Boost. And this Dewgong has to throw energy in order to take us out, and I maintained my own Dewgong for a sacrificial swap, which I'm going to do right here. I love a good sac swap. It is one of the best things you can do in the meta, as we do catch a Drill Run. They decided to undercharge, which is perfect, because now I'm going for an Icy Wind to apply the debuff. And now we have a much better matchup with Azumarill versus Dewgong. But what we're going to look to do is come back in and go for a Play Rough. They swap into their Deoxys to catch my charge move. So this is a long-winded battle, right? Deoxys goes down. Dewgong is going to be coming back in, but both Pokemon now are cleared of their debuffs. Drorun's not enough to take me out. And the second that I can get to this Play Rough, I'm going to look to throw it and then swap now into my Venusaur, because this Play Rough might be forcing the final shield, and it does. So I'm going to go ahead and swap out. I'm going to go for, well, I was going to go for Frenzy Plant, but I'm forced to shield here. And I got to be very careful because there's still an Umbreon in the back. Timer is almost up as well. This is how long this game has been. There's 14 seconds left in the game after this animation. There's only going to be 4 seconds. So Dewgong goes down. 3, 2, 1. We get to the Frenzy Plant in time, and that is going to be a good game. Very well played. Talk about a long-winded battle. A chess match right there. Very good game to my opponent. That was a lot of fun. But ultimately, I think having the upper hand of knowledge, of knowing you see a Defense Form Deoxys, you know it pairs well with Dark-type Pokemon. There is likely, the odds are there's likely one in the back if the team is built correctly, basically. So Umbreon was there, so I accounted for that. Dewgong, I kind of expected that. It is a very popular team, but I wasn't 100% going, yeah, there's a Dewgong as well. I just knew there was Defense Form Deoxys and Dark, so if I can keep my Azumarill to that, we can do very well. So overall, very fun team, very strong. Shout out to Jason. Again, I ran Play Rough, but having looked at the tweet, there's a thread that he has in there talking about the team. Hydro Pump is more ideal, and you saw situations where the Hydro Pump against a Bastion earlier would have won me the game, or if you're seeing Carbinks, but Play Rough did well for me as well. In mirror fights against Dewgong, against Umbreon. So overall, very strong team, very fun to use, and probably a roster that you guys already have ready. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and like always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.